One of the mothers who I met in Eilat, who had evacuated from one of, I think it was some kibbutz Nirim, and she had lost one of her sons. And so what she said to me was, she's holding it together because the whole Jewish people are holding her up. And she feels the love and the unity of all the Jewish people coming to support them. And that helps her wake up every morning.
Welcome, everybody. This is Ordinary People with Extraordinary Stories, and I'm joined today by Bruria Efune. Bruria and her husband are co-directors of Ohr Chabad. They've been working on establishing a new Chabad resort town in the Negev. Welcome, Bruria. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you've also written quite a bit for Chabad.org. You are a journalist. You write on Chabad.org's news site quite a bit. And you also have a large following of people who are listening to you for updates on the war in Israel right now. You give a lot of people a lot of not only information, but a lot of inspiration. So thank you so much for taking from your busy schedule and joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Bruria, thank you. Bruria, tell us a little about what the situation is like right now where you live.
Mm-hmm. So I live in Beersheba. In the beginning, it was a lot for us. The very first day we woke up to a lot of sirens nonstop the entire day. A rocket had landed not far
You
from
mean
our
this
house.
is
The very first day of the war.
that was Simchas Torah?
Simchas Torah. Yeah, we woke up 6:30 like everybody else in Israel to sirens. Because we're in the south, we had a huge volley of them. We were in our bomb shelter almost the entire day. We did the Simchas Torah hakafos in our house, most between the bomb shelter and our living room table.
Wow.
We also had a
Give us a little bit of an idea of give us a little of an idea for those who don't know Israel, like how far are you from the actual attack, where the actual attack occurred near Gaza?
Okay, so the closest attack was about a 15-minute drive from our house. The truth is there was also an attack
Oh, wow.
in
So it's quite
Beersheba.
close.
A terrorist did come to Beersheba, but thank God he wasn't successful. I mean, the way it works in Israel is you only find out things because the grapevine. So my friend's neighbor's grandfather's apartment building was shot at, which is about a 5-minute walk from my house. So the terrorists were shooting at their house, but everybody was indoors, and the police eliminated him before anything could happen. There were other terrorists on the way to Beersheba, and they were caught on the way. So thankfully, we didn't actually have terrorists here, just heavy rockets, a lot of landings, one near our house. And the brunt of it was between a 15-minute drive of our house.
Wow. And I know in our little pre-recording, you were having a little trouble with the connections because you have some interceptors right above your house that are, so I guess that's...
The Air Force Base is actually right down the road from my house, right outside Beersheba on the side that we're on. So there's a few Air Force bases in Israel, but this is the one closest to Gaza. So we constantly hear the airplanes, the jets take off on the way to Gaza. We kind of learned how to tell the difference between, the different sounds, what they are, and we know which one it is that messes up with our internet and our cell phone reception. Simple things like in the first days, we changed the battery to our car key a couple times because it wasn't working unless we went right up to the car until somebody let us know that it's not that the battery was out, it's just the interceptor planes above were ruining the reception.
We're ruining it. Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So all these like little things that are taking place during the war that really affect daily life, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of big things, and that's what a lot of what you've been reporting about. Can you give us a feel of what some of the things that you've been doing? I know you've gone to what you called the bomb shelter park. Tell us a little about that. What is that?
So in the first days of the war, we had a lot of sirens here in Beersheba. For a lot of people, the natural response is to stay inside because instructions are to stay near a bomb shelter. In Beersheba, thankfully, we have a whole 60 seconds to run to safety. In central Israel, they have a minute and a half, But closer to Gaza, some of them only have 15 seconds. So we feel really lucky with our 60 seconds. But when you have kids,
Wow.
60 seconds means you need to be very close to your bomb shelter all the time. So for a lot of people, that means staying inside all day. But it's not healthy. It's not good for the kids. It increases the trauma of the experience. When, you're trapped inside, it's important to be around friends and a support network when you're going through a traumatic experience like this.
Mhm.
So we're very fortunate that nearby our house, there's a playground that has a giant underground bomb shelter. There's a few playgrounds
Underground.
underground. So there's a above ground, a little space that has a staircase, and then you go down under, and underground there's a big space. So there's a lot of bomb shelters
Oh.
like this, but most of them aren't close enough to the park to get there with your kids within 60 seconds. We're
Mm.
very lucky because there is one like that near our house. The walk to get there is a little bit nerve wracking because it takes us 3 minutes to walk there. So there's about 1.5 minutes of the walk where, thank God, we have never been caught during that 1.5 minutes, but it is a nerve wracking 1.5 minutes.
Wow.
Um, but at
Do
the
you
park,
run do you run there or do you walk
we walk quickly. I have, we had
quickly?
the
Okay.
first few times we went, we had a whole protocol with the kids. They stay right next to me. They can't be too far ahead of me or too far behind me. We walk fast, and the whole walk I say, if there's a siren goes off while we're here, we're going to run back to the house. Now, if a siren goes off when we're here, we lie down flat next to this fence and put our hands on our heads, and the kids have practiced that. And then I say, if a siren goes off while we're
Wow.
here, that's where we're going to lie down next to with our hands on our head. And then when we get up to the point where I think we could make it, I'll say, if the siren goes off here, we run to the bomb shelter. And
Wow.
the kids have
So
memorized
something
that.
as small as going to a park.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And something as small as going to a park has become a whole. Can I ask how old your children are?
So my oldest is 11 and my youngest is 6. Thank God.
And how are they dealing with that whole situation?
Um, Now they're doing much better. Now they're doing a lot better now that they're back in school, and they have a normal schedule every day. They could talk about it with their friends. We had a very nice break of about 3 weeks without any sirens here. Um, we think
Mhm.
it's because the main launchers towards Beersheba were all destroyed, and then there were a lot of misses around Beersheba where they were trying to figure out, how to retarget. And then today we again had our first one in a while. And that threw the kids off because when it's regular and they were expecting it, there were a few a day, they were kind of, which is not a good thing. It's not a good thing, but they were on edge already.
Right.
So when there was a siren, they were already
Sure.
on edge. They were already ready to jump up and go. They were used to that lifestyle. Today, it came as a surprise. They were thrown off. So we had to go back to that place of learning how to unwind after, how to
Mhm.
resettle, how to not be afraid. Um, my daughter had just gotten comfortable enough to walk over to her friend's house and back. So we backtracked on that. But the truth is, I wasn't
Mhm.
expecting her to be already at that stage. Um,
Mhm.
for the first month of the war, my 3 youngest kids would only sleep in the bomb shelter and spend most of their day over there. It took a while to get
Because
them
they
to
were
go.
afraid.
They were afraid. They couldn't fall asleep if they knew that they would have to jump up out of bed at any moment. Our bomb shelter is
Mhm.
really small, though.
Mhm.
It's small, and it's thick, thick cement walls. It's ideal. It's not ideal to sleep in a bomb shelter, especially when the shutters are closed, because you don't have air circulation in there. So
Mhm.
it's very small. They were sleeping on mattresses squished together, but in their bedrooms they couldn't fall asleep because they knew that any moment they would have to jump up and run. And why relax if you know that you might have to be on edge? They were
Of
also
course.
nervous. They have friends that live in the cities where there were shootings, and they knew that there were
Mhm.
terrorists in Beersheba. So they were also nervous. They just felt safer in the bomb shelter, that if something would happen, they would be safe and they would be able to shut it and lock the door. So
Mhm.
my did I say my youngest is 6? She's 4. I'm sorry. My 4-year-old,
She's 4. Okay.
yeah.
So right.
My
No
4-year-old,
problem.
anytime she goes to the bathroom, she first comes and tells me or asks me, "Mommy, will you come get me if there's a siren?" Or anytime she
Wow.
goes to a room
Wow.
alone, Mommy, will you come get me if there's a siren? She makes sure to tell me wherever she is because she doesn't want to be caught alone. And I've reassured her a million times, don't worry, I will always come and get you. I would never leave you alone if there's a siren. My first thought is, where are the kids? And I count from youngest to
Right.
oldest to know where they all are. But she still needs that reassurance every
Of
single time
course. Wow.
that I'm aware where she is. I know where she
It's
is.
scary for such a child.
It
Sure.
is. It is. And
Wow.
it's not just
Yeah.
the siren. They hear the explosions also. They hear the big booms. And there was a
Hmm.
couple times when we were at the park, and one time the siren went off too late. So the kids saw the rocket overhead. It was very frightening for them. And another time there were too many kids at the park. So when you have 100 kids that need to go down a staircase, there ends up being a bottleneck. So the rule at the
Sure.
park is the kids go first and then the parents go last. The kids, the elderly, then the adults. Um, but that one time, my daughter, my 4-year-old, was afraid to go without me. So she got stuck in the back with me, and she was also, again, that time outside when the Iron Dome explosion happened overhead. And
Mm-hmm.
it looks frightening and it's loud, and you don't realize how loud the rockets overhead are because usually you're in the bomb shelter with the door shut when it happens, but it's really loud. It sounds like an airplane right over your head. So it's very frightening, very frightening. So
I'm sure.
um, there's a trauma that comes with each siren and with each rocket, and each time it happens, we have to unwind again and regulate the children
How
again.
do you how do you do that?
Every time it's different. My kids like to look at the map and have an understanding of what's going on. So we look at the map and say,
Hmm.
these are the places where there was a siren just now. They have a lot of questions about it. We talk about how there's the army protecting us, and then there's Hashem protecting us. God is protecting us. And there's things that the army does to keep us safe, and there's things that we do to keep us safe and to keep the army safe, like saying Tehillim, saying psalms, doing mitzvot, having, doing acts of kindness and having acts of unity, and all of those things help us protect us and also help the soldiers to protect us. And that could be very
Mm.
empowering for the kids because they know they're doing something to help. My kids have been
That's
very
beautiful.
fortunate. They got to visit a lot of army bases and bring
I was just going to ask you that. Like on the one hand, your children, I mean, you try to protect children, but on the other hand, you seem to be so involved with your children to go to different places that
Mhm.
they're actually seeing a lot of what's going on, whether it's army bases or in Eilat or in soup
Mhm.
kitchens or whatever. You're very much with the children, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering about that. Tell us a little about that.
It absolutely helps them because I know that in the US, it might be possible to shield the children from what's going on. Here, it's impossible. The kids know,
Right.
um, until a few days ago, I was able to say they knew almost everything. And now I would say they know
Mm.
98% of everything, including the things I was trying for them to not know because
Wow.
somebody told them. Um,
You mean the whole massacre, all the massacres and what happened there?
so they knew about the massacres. They didn't know
They knew about that.
about the horrific parts of the massacres. So they
And
knew
now you're
from
saying
the
they do
very
know.
first day because
Hmm.
it was Simchat Torah. We didn't have our phones on. I didn't feel like I needed to turn on my phone. I know a lot of people, when it's an emergency situation, they technically you are allowed to check your phone on Shabbat to understand what's going on and how to do safety measures. I felt that because we had a sturdy bomb shelter and we were next to it, I didn't need to turn it on. But when there was a lot of smoke around our house and a lot, too
Mm.
many ambulances to understand, I went outside with my kids and my husband to see if we could figure out what was going on. And a neighbor said that hundreds are killed, dozens are kidnapped,
Wow.
and my kids heard that. So straight off on the first day, they knew. There's posters everywhere in Israel. Everybody talks about it. My children have friends in the cities where there were shootings and killings. Um,
Mm.
so they know everything.
Mm. Wow.
And yeah, you can't, it's impossible to shield the children
You
here.
can't shield.
You can't.
Right.
So for them, especially my older kids, they feel much more empowered when they have a full understanding of what's going on. My boys can explain everything. They wanted to know who are all the different armies involved and how does the idea protect against each one, what are the different fronts. They looked at a map to understand it all. It's very important for them to understand all the details, and it gives them, I don't know, some sense of control of the situation. When we visit the
Right.
soldiers, now then they suddenly feel like they're helping. Or when we, their favorite thing to do by far was packing boxes in the soup kitchen. It was their favorite thing to do. Um,
Where was the soup kitchen? Let's hear about
so
this.
Ofakim, to begin with, was a very poor city. It was
How
originally
far is that in relation to where you are?
15 minutes drive from us.
15
Minutes
minutes. And
drive.
that's closer
It's
to
closer towards
Gaza?
Gaza. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Ofakim, to begin, was a very poor city, very neglected, in need of a lot of help. And then a large amount of terrorists made their way there on Simchat Torah. And the terrorists clearly knew the city of Ofakim well, because there was a new neighborhood in Ofakim, which is a normal entrance to come through, that is majority policemen. The terrorists went
Mhm.
around through side roads and came to the older neighborhood. In the older neighborhood, the people don't have bomb shelters in their homes. So when the sirens went
Mhm.
off, everyone ran to the outdoor bomb shelters, and the terrorists waited for them there. Um,
Wow.
a few people involved in the soup kitchen were killed. A few people who had been dancing at the Chabad Simchat Torah the next day were gone. Um, so it was, the city was hit very hard. So Chabad has a soup kitchen there that has works together with the city. The city sends people to the Chabad soup kitchen, and the day after the war broke out, suddenly their clientele quadrupled. Some because they didn't have family
Mhm.
anymore. I mean, fathers and
Right.
were killed.
Right.
And a lot of it in the beginning was for 2 weeks, people didn't leave their houses. It was too frightened. They
Mhm.
didn't know if there were still terrorists
Too
wandering the
frightened.
streets. They were
Sure.
traumatized. There were horrible sights in the street. They didn't want to see the bullets riddling the sides of their houses. So
Wow.
a unit of soldiers actually came to help Chabad deliver, armed guards came to help Chabad deliver the meals to people's houses.
Oh, wow. So the Ofakim soup kitchen is not in one place. It actually they deliver food to
Deliver.
the
So
different.
they used to be in one place. They had to completely change plans the day the war broke out. They went from
Right.
serving around 100 people on a weekly basis to hundreds daily and delivering. So the entire layout
Wow.
changed to packing boxes and delivering. And so thankfully they got a lot of volunteers, but it's a poor city. They didn't really have funding. So I called up, I wrote about them for an article on Chabad.org. And then I spoke with the Chabad rabbi in charge of the soup kitchen, and I asked him, how are you paying for this? And he said, I have no idea. We just know this is what we have to do. And then when the war is over, I'll look at the bank account and figure out what to do next. But I don't know how I'm going to cover it.
Wow.
So, my husband's cousin, Kylie Feller, is amazing, and she had asked me, how can she help out? She has an organization, and she wants to see how they can help out. And asked her, I said maybe you can set up a campaign page for Chabad of Ofakim. So she opened up a campaign page for them with help of the Chabad office in Crown Heights. And we started fundraising. She shared it with her network. I shared it with my network. We went over to, show people what they were doing, and my kids loved packing the boxes. And when they were packing the boxes, they asked the rabbi if they could put extra cookies in each box, because they said people need to have good treats when they're in the bomb shelter. So, thinking about the practical things there.
Oh,
So
wow.
if anybody got a box with a
Of
lot of
course.
cookies, they know that my kids packed that one.
That's so sweet. So
Yeah.
you went with your kids to this Ofakim soup kitchen and
Mhm.
helped out there.
Yeah.
Like, how long ago was this? This
Um,
was during
Sometime listen, the days and nights are mushed together. I have no idea.
Meshed together.
Sometime in the
I'm
first few
saying,
weeks.
were you worried? I know there's a lot of rocket fire going on there. Were you
Yeah,
worried about that?
so we weren't worried. Um,
You weren't
my
worried.
kids get on edge from the rockets, but they're not scared of them. It's a
Mm.
I don't know how to
Mhm.
explain
Mhm.
it. They one son actually enjoys the rockets. It just puts them on edge because there's an adrenaline. So my
Right.
adrenaline junkie son loves the rockets and wants more and more. My other kids, not so much, but it puts them on a bit
Right.
of an edge because they're prepared for it, they're ready for it, and there's an unwind after each one, and they have to constantly think, am I in a safe zone? But if they know where's the nearest bomb shelter and um, that there is a bomb shelter locally, they're fine. So they're okay with,
Right.
in Ofakim, there's 45 seconds. We've been to places
Mm.
where there's 15 seconds, and they were fine with it. Um,
Wow.
yeah, we
Wow.
went to Moshav Patish to deliver toys. My father-in-law brought, I think it was 19 duffel bags full of really nice toys for the children that were in areas heavily affected, and we went to deliver
Where
them.
where 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 is this Moshav?
Moshav Patish is right on. So there's the area of all the kibbutz and yeshivim and sderot that were evacuated, and they're exactly on the
Mhm.
line that's like
Oh, so they're
questionable
still
to
there. That's
evacuate.
if
So
right.
they're still there. So that's
Uh-huh.
why we went there to bring to them.
Wow.
They, thank God, most Shah Patish, the terrorists were killed right at the gate. So they didn't
Mhm.
get in, but what happened was all the youth who were fleeing the music festival went to Moshav Patish. That was,
Mhm.
the first Moshav in the line of where to run to. I mean, not all of
Mhm.
them, but a lot of them who ran in that direction, that's where they ended up. A
Right.
lot of the heroes who drove back and forth to rescue youth were from there.
We're from there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so there it's you hear the artillery, everything's constantly shaking. You
Mhm.
can like feel the ground shaking from the
Yeah.
operations.
And you only have 15 seconds
15
to
seconds. So
prepare
actually,
yourself.
I asked the
Wow.
people there, I said, ask them how much time do you have when there's a siren? And the majority of them said, I don't know. If I'm close to the bomb shelter, we'll go into it. If not, we lie down and put our hands on our head.
Wow.
Um, so
Wow.
yeah.
It sounds like you prepared your children very well. Like you give them enough information and preparation so that they can handle whatever it is that is coming their way.
Yeah, I mean, thank God, but the truth is that it's not the first time for my kids. My youngest, I mean, not my
Mhm.
second child was born right before Operation Protective Edge in 2014.
Mhm.
So he was
Mhm.
born into 3 months of, and in those days, Beersheba had a lot more rocket fire than now. It was
Mhm.
almost every hour. I remember, put the babies in the bath, siren, take them out, go to the bomb shelter, put them back in the bath, siren again. Put some food on the stove, siren, turn off the stove, come back, the food tasted terrible each time. Um, we
Right.
used to actually get a lot more here. I mean, now, like at the highest times, it was 5 or 6 a day, but my kids are used to it. They've had an average once a year, a couple weeks or 1 week of rockets. We've had this conversation many times. They know how to regulate, they know how to calm down from it. They know that they're helping by saying psalms and doing good deeds and being kind and going out to help. And at this
What
point,
what was their
yeah.
what was their reaction when they were giving out the toys? How did the kids feel about it?
Oh, they were so happy to do it. They were just they were so happy that they're able to help and do something about this rather than on the first day when we were just sitting in our bomb shelter listening to the sirens and listening to the explosions and wondering when we're going to be able to go to the bathroom or get food to eat.
Right. Right.
So now
Wow.
to be out there doing something, helping and making other kids smile was really meaningful to them.
That's beautiful. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. What was the reaction of the children that you gave the toys to? Were they traumatized? Were they like what was their mood like?
Um, the truth is, a lot of the kids at that time were still in shell shock. So their
Mhm.
faces were
Mhm.
very stony.
Mhm.
They were definitely excited to get the toys and happy to be receiving something and happy that people were thinking about them. When we told them that they're from the Jewish community in England, they were like in awe
Mhm.
that Jews outside of Israel are thinking about them and sent gifts for them. And my father-in-law flew
It's
in from
beautiful.
England to bring it to them. So they were very moved by it, but they were still in a state of shell shock. So some
Right.
parents, after, sent me messages or videos of their kids playing with the toys. This was in the beginning. Last week, we went, my husband's cousin, Brad, and his relatives in Arizona sent a donation to buy a lot of toys for kids that have been relocated to a lot. So a lot of
Wow.
the most traumatized communities were sent to a lot. There's actually 70,000 families displaced by the war, 70,000 people displaced by the war in a lot right now, including 16,000 children. And the Chabad shluchim there are doing
Wow.
incredible work to take care of them. So each hotel has, a different kibbutz or moshav staying there together. So we brought toys, Lego, nice sized Lego sets, the type that the kids love to get. We bought about 500 of them and gave them to the kids there, and did a whole fun event.
Beautiful.
Somebody called Simcha on Wheels came and did some dancing with the kids. And a lot of parents came up to me to tell me it's the first time we're seeing the kids smile since the war broke out. And this is like, I think it was 54 days in. Even some in the back of the
Wow.
room, there were some grandmothers, some saftas. And I went to talk to them, and they're like, I don't have a kid to bring to this event, but I came because I heard that the kids are smiling and I had to come see it for myself. One
Wow.
lady, even, she told me that, and then she went and she came back a minute later, and she's like, "This is my son. He's on reserve duty up in Lebanon, but he got a day off and he flew down to visit her because from Lebanon, from the far northern border of Lebanon down to Eilat is a. So he came by plane to visit her for 24 hours, and he was resting, and she went to get him because she said, "I need him to see that the kids are smiling."
Smiling.
And it'll give him
Wow.
strength to go back to the war. So that was the first time that these kids were smiling. They were getting along together. The hotel staff, who the kids actually made a speech thanking the hotel staff for being patient with them, despite the fact that they drive them crazy. And the hotel staff stayed to the way end of the event. I think it was 11 p.m. And I was wondering, they could have gone home already. And they were standing there chatting and smiling after all the kids had taken their toys and gone. And I was, wondering why they're still there. They can go home. And they said, "You don't understand. If we saw the kids smiling and getting along, usually they spend the whole day fighting, getting on each other's nerves. They're on edge because these are very traumatized kids and they're not home. They're used to
Of
running around
course.
free in a kibbutz or in a moshav and, biking around all day. And now they experienced a huge trauma. They don't have their own belongings. They're inside of a hotel building where, instead of beautiful green fields, it's hallways lined with doors. Instead of a playground is a big conference room with
Sure.
carpet. And they're like, the kids were smiling, they were having fun, and they're like, the hotel staff were on a high from seeing it. So it's something where,
Wow.
thinking of
Wow.
these children,
Incredible.
showing them that the Jewish people in America are thinking about them, and giving them a good time. It made there's a huge difference to be made, and the truth is, I feel like we owe it to these people and these kids because they were standing guard on Israel's borders and lost a lot because
Right.
of it. And they were doing that for the rest of us.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Well, it was thanks to you that I actually interviewed Chani Klein from Eilat, from
Mhm.
Chabad of Eilat.
She's
You put me
amazing.
in touch with her, and amazing what they're doing there.
Mhm.
And the incredible thing is how many people, how many refugees are actually there.
Yeah,
Just but you're seeing it like on a first hand basis.
yeah.
So when you come there, how do you know who to even go to? Like even what to do? It just seems so overwhelming and just so like such a huge tragedy,
Mhm.
so much people, so many people. How do you
Mhm.
even know where to start?
I got to the first time I went down to Eilat was because it was in the first week of the war, like a few days after the war broke out. Um, and my first instinct when the war broke out was, what can I do? I can write. So I was writing. And then my husband said, we need to get out there and do something. Let's call the Shluchim in Eilat and see if they need help. And they said, we desperately need tzitzit for the soldiers. So we went, we got rid of a whole, at that point, the war was really hard. There was a tzitzit shortage. We brought them, we drove them down. And that was in the very beginning. And it's also how we began our friendship with the Kleins, Hani and Mendy Klein.
Mm,
Um, we saw them at the very beginning when it was the emergency point where mothers had fled the massacre and went into labor. and they were, 6 mothers just had a baby, and they fled with nothing. They needed strollers and car seats and baby clothes and diapers and wipes. And there were people who had nothing and needed, food, clothes, and it was just a mass effort to get everything that they needed. And just dealing with the very, very basic emergencies. We went back to Eilat 3 times, and each time, and we've been in touch with the clients in between and got to see how, they figured out what was needed and went along and created a solution to the point where now their phones are ringing nonstop with all the different staff from hotels asking them to come help and do programs there. And it went from they started making programs in one hotel to now they're doing in 45 hotels for 16,000
Wow.
children.
Wow.
Um,
Incredible.
yeah, I mean, they went and they saw the first thing they saw was that you had a hotel with 250 families and 3 washing machines.
Mm.
And it's not like they even had a lot of clothes either. Some families didn't have time to pack. Uh,
Anything, sure.
Nothing.
They just took what they could, right?
Exactly. And some had maybe 1 change of clothes per kid, and then they had to share 3 washing machines with 250 other families. So I think one of the first things that the clients did there was get washing machines for each floor of one of the hotels. And then word
Mm.
spread that they did that, and the city stepped in and did that, copied, and did the same for all the other hotels.
Mm.
So in the beginning was the very
Mhm.
basics, and then they saw that the kids don't have school. They came from a really traumatic experience. The teenagers themselves disappeared, which is very concerning because you have teenagers that experience huge trauma. They don't have school. They're bored, and they're in a city that's used to tourists and has a nightlife that's not known for being completely legal. Um,
Wow.
the teenagers were disappearing. The parents weren't
A
seeing.
recipe for disaster, sure.
Recipe for disaster. So they, I guess it was a few weeks ago, we were there when they did the first challah bake. We brought challah dough to one of the hotels, and the kids came and they got to make their own challah, and the mothers got to help their kids make challah. And they don't have kitchens. They're away from their home, giving their kids whatever the hotel is serving. And they're used to being able to feed their families what they like to feed their families, and now they can't. So they were able to make challah with their kids and then have freshly baked challah. It was amazing. So then it
Mm.
kind of blew up and spread from there, where they started doing daily events. So the kids would have regular activity every day with volunteers who would, the same volunteers showing up every day to build a relationship with them. And then they created the most important, I think. I mean, they have a lot of activities, thankfully, for the kids and the mothers and the parents. I think really the most urgent and important thing they're doing is making seating rooms in the hotels. Some of the hotels, not all of them, gave them a room for the teenagers. They got ping pong tables, foosball, maybe air hockey, PlayStation, and then a bunch of table games. And some volunteers come every night from about 9 p.m. through midnight, sometimes later, and sit with the teens and play with them and talk with them and have meaningful conversations.
It's
And the teens are
incredible.
there instead of who knows where.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. Just incredible.
Yeah.
It's just, you're giving us a little picture of so many things that are going on, like in so many different places
Mm-hmm.
by individuals who are just stepping forward, whether it be, a cousin in Arizona or a father-in-law in England or a
Mm-hmm.
shliach in Ofakim or,
Yeah.
everyone, just individuals stepping forward and doing their part to brighten the life of one other
Mm-hmm.
person or a few other people.
And that's what
I guess that's what it's all about at this point.
one of the mothers who I met in Eilat, who had evacuated from one of, I think it was from Kibbutz Nirim, um,
Hmm.
and she had lost one of her sons. And that's what she said to me was she's holding it together because the whole Jewish people are holding her up. And she feels the love and the unity of all the Jewish people coming to support them. And that helps her wake up every morning.
Wow, that's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That's really powerful. I guess, when it seems like the tragedy is just so overwhelming, that's what we do. That's what we do for that one mother, for
Mm-hmm.
another one mother. And in this
Mm-hmm.
way, we try to heal at least to whatever extent we can, a whole world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about, I know you're also had this secret mission to some elite army stations. Could you tell us a little about that? Or
I can tell you a little bit about it. Um, what
okay,
can I
we'll
say
take
about
whatever we can get.
it? So there's,
Why were you involved, and how did it go, and what happened?
you know what? I don't even know how to explain the why part. I think from the beginning of the war, my husband and I put ourselves out there as in we're here to help in whatever way we can help. And by putting
Mm,
ourselves out there, we were able to make so many amazing connections and be able to do so many things. I'll tell you, for an example, one thing that might explain this is one day, this happened literally in 5 minutes. A soldier messaged me, actually, the wife of a soldier messaged me, that his unit needed new armored vests and tactical shirts before they went into Gaza. And they had raised half of the amount, but they needed $8,000 more. And they also needed someone to bring it in from the US, from the supplier they had ordered it from. Within minutes, a Rebbitzin from a Chabad community messaged me. My community raised $8,000. They want it to go to an army unit for tactical gear. Do you know who to send it to? And somebody else messaged
wow.
me, another Chabad
Wow.
Rebbitzin. I'm coming to Israel in 2 days. Do you need me to bring anything? And I just connected them
Wow.
all, and it
Chills.
happened.
Wow.
And the thing is that this
That's
has been
incredible.
happening so much. So I don't, it's a whole long chain of events how we connected to this elite unit. I can't name them, but another miraculous story like this. And they needed help with certain things. And we knew people who could help, and we had to make the relationship. So we met them and we met at a nearby moshav within the evacuation zone. They put armored vests on us and helmets, got us into the Hummers or Jeeps, and drove down the highway and into Gaza. Um,
Wow. Into Gaza itself.
into Gaza itself. This was during the
Wow. When
ceasefire.
fighting is going on.
So
Ceasefire.
fighting, it
Okay.
was a ceasefire, but fighting was going on.
Of
We had
course. Of
to cut
course.
our trip short because fighting broke out nearby and we had to get out of there.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, the entire thing that happened, thankfully, was a successful mission, it was a successful connection. And I can't take a cent of credit for it because it's literally just God guided all the right connections to come together and make what needed to happen happen. And
Mm,
these soldiers actually said to me, and this is something that really strikes me every time I meet our soldiers, especially the most elite units and the commanders, is that these are like fierce, fearless soldiers, but they're also the most soft, gentle, kind people you've ever met. Literally, we were standing outside in the sun, and they're like, "You're going to get sunburnt," and they moved their
wow.
armored vehicle to make shade for us. And I'm like, you have been running through dodging bullets and you're worried about me getting a sunburn.
Wow.
So
Incredible.
one of them told us, he said, listen, I haven't put on tefillin since my bar mitzvah up until this war. I don't usually fast on Yom Kippur, but ever since this war broke out, my unit, we put on tefillin frequently. We all wear tzitzit into battle, and we always say tefillat derech, the traveler's prayer, before going on any mission. And he said, I know that the Jews around the world are praying for us, and I ask you, please keep praying for us. Pray for us strongly because we see that your prayers are working. So most of the time, it's in ways that I can't explain. You can just tell that God's hand is guiding us. There are missions that they did not think the whole unit would come out of. They frequently go on extremely dangerous missions that they don't think they're all going to come out of. And thank God until now they have. Um, And he said, we just see that the prayers are working and they're helping, and we need you to continue. One of them showed me a few videos that he had
Mm,
on his phone from houses that were burnt down in the kibbutzim. I think they were from kibbutz Be'eri, because this unit, they're a reserve unit, and they had all, on Simchat Torah, immediately ran over to Be'eri. And he showed me on his phone several videos that he took of the entire house was ash. For example, in one video, sitting on a table, a Tehillim, a Psalms, in perfect condition. And he said, I took this as a sign that what we need most right now is prayers. And a side point,
Incredible.
this unit,
Wow.
they all showed up on Simchat Torah to Kibbutz Be'eri. A lot of them came without weapons. So quite a few of them are medics. One of them's a doctor, and they just knew that they had to be there. So they just went to Be'eri without weapons, and the ones who didn't have weapons got weapons there from fallen soldiers. And those are the weapons that they're using now in the war. At this point, every single one of them in the unit holds the weapon of a fallen soldier and says that that's, a reminder of, we're fighting for the Jewish people and we have to do this for the Jewish people.
Wow. Incredible. Just incredible.
Really the most.
How long were you with?
Mhm.
How long were you with this unit?
We spent
Like, how long did you
2
spend
hours
in
with
Gaza?
them. We were in Gaza only for an hour. And we spent a few hours of the morning
Wow.
with them, getting to
Wow.
know them, understanding what they.
So I'm just,
Mhm.
yeah. You were going to say something. You were going to say a message, I think.
No, I was just saying how amazing our soldiers are, that they're almost an oxymoron. And anybody who lives in Israel and has interacted with our soldiers will tell you that they're brave, they're fearless, they'll go out and do anything. And this commander, who's I think in his 40s, I hope he doesn't get mad if I'm overestimating, told me that he's never seen soldiers this capable, that are giborim, you say in Hebrew. Hero, I don't know how to translate giborim. Just fearless heroes.
A strength. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fearlessness. Wow.
But then at the same
And what
time,
what do you think is fueling that?
that this is what they said, is that we have to do this for the Jewish people. We have to do this for Am Yisrael. I mean, the soldiers were, I freeze up thinking about it. They were explaining a mission that they need to go on, or that they wanted to go on for. And they said, we know that a quarter of us might not make it out of it if we do this mission. And he said it with the most straight face. But we have to do it for the Jewish people. So they go through really dangerous places. This is the unit that goes places where you don't think the army goes. And he said, but we have to do it for the Jewish people. So they're the most brave, fierce, fearless, selfless soldiers, but then they're also these gentle, soft people full of faith and full of love for the Jewish people. And it's, facing them is like a complete oxymoron, and you realize that, this is what the Jewish people are. We don't want to be fighting. We don't want to be doing war. We do it because we have to. We do it because we have an obligation to protect our people and to protect our nation. But what we really want to be doing is, it says, Hakol kol Yaakov vayadayim yedei Esav. Esav wants to fight. Yaakov, the Jewish people, we want to, sit, learn Torah, do mitzvot, do good deeds, take care of each other. And that's who they really are.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, there's soldiers that were worried that we were going to get a sunburn.
Incredible. Wow, incredible. Bria, I just find it incredible. Like, it sounds like your whole life is almost on pause with the war, just trying to help out in any way that you can, you and your husband. Did you put everything on stop? Like, how are you doing this?
There are some people who I work for on a regular basis who are not so thrilled about this. I have been doing less work than I usually
I
do.
can imagine.
Um,
Wow. Wow.
but it's, how can I not?
It's the
The
call. It's the call of the hour.
it's the
Wow.
call of the hour. The Jewish
Wow.
people are
Incredible.
going through the hardest thing in decades. And we need to do what we need to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. What what message could you give? I mean, you're speaking now to an audience which is probably mostly Americans,
Mhm.
um, in Chutz La'aretz, people outside of Israel. What message would you like to give to
Mhm.
people that are listening to you right now? What would you like them to know and to do, I guess, for the people in Israel?
Question. It's a good question. I think, first of all, we're nearing 60 days of the war, and it's easy to, most people are moving on with life and moving on to different things. And ask that you don't forget that there's still a war going on in Israel. There's still 100,000, more than 100,000 displaced people in Israel displaced by the war that are still suffering and still need your help. There are still soldiers in Gaza who need your prayers, wounded in the hospital who need your prayers, your good deeds, unity, the unity of the Jewish people makes a difference. Our soldiers, our incredible soldiers who are putting their lives on the line, asked you to pray. They said that your prayers help. So please don't lose that motivation and that energy, even
Momentum.
as the momentum. That's the word I was looking for. Don't lose that momentum, even as each day goes on and the war drags on. Um, remember us, remember our soldiers, and remember our displaced families.
Wow.
And
I
there's
mean,
causes
we're
to
one
help.
nation, and we need to.
Yeah, I
There's
mean, if
causes to
people want to
help. I
donate,
know you're.
mhm. Chabad Lot just launched a campaign. Um, if you
Mhm.
can imagine running programs for 70,000 people, there are expenses, especially with Hanukkah coming. And there's also the soldiers. They have more than 50,000 soldiers to bring donuts to and Chanukias to light the menorah on Hanukkah. And you have also all these families that evacuated. They barely packed clothes. They definitely did not pack their Hanukkah menorahs or Chanukias from their homes. And Chabad Avela is taking care of all of them with their regular physical needs, things like washing machines and clothes, and also things like programs that they have a consistent life and schedule going on, um, and can begin to heal. Um, so if you can donate to that,
Absolutely.
we'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Bruria, give us one last like glimmer of light in all this darkness that we can hold on to.
Well, I'd say the glimmer of light is really, and anybody who's in Israel also sees this every day. We went from right before the war being a nation torn apart, wondering, what's the future of Israel between on political means. We were stuck on political arguments and being completely torn over it. Since the war broke out, we've realized that that's not it. That we can't afford to argue about these things because we're all we have, and inside we all have the same soul. We're all part of one people. I told you about the other day when we went on a mission with that elite unit, and we're still working together with them. And when I say we, I mean a team of um, some, you would say Tel Avivnikim, who before this war we would have never met. We would have never spoken. We would have never had anything to do with each other. I don't know if they would be stepping into, a Chabad house or a typical program. Maybe they would, because in Tel Aviv people still do step into Chabad houses. But people that might have been on the opposite political spectrum of me. And at this point of the war, political spectrum doesn't matter. We're working together. Um, we spend hours together, hours on the phone together, working together towards the same project and the same goals. And none of that matters because we've all come to the realization that what matters is that we all have the same soul inside. Um, and that's a big glimmer of light for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bruria, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
May we witness open miracles, and may
Amen.
you no longer
Amen.
have to run from the rockets,
Amen.
from with your children, and may soldiers be safe and secure, and all our people and all those that have been hurt or sick or injured should be healed. And of course, the hostages
Amen.
should all be returned home.
Amen.
Wow, that was an incredible interview with Bruria Efune. But what most stood out for me, the moments that stood out for me from that interview, was number one, when she spoke about that mother in Eilat who lost a child and who said, it's because of what we're doing, what all of Klal Yisrael, what all the Jewish people are doing. We are giving her strength. As Bruria brought her something and she sees she's bringing toys for these children, she felt that strength from all of us. And I guess we all can give someone strength in whatever area that we're working on, in something small that we're doing, we can provide that strength. And the other moment that stood out was how she described those soldiers as being such fierce soldiers, but yet so sensitive and so caring. And I guess that's one, and both of them are really the same message, how the Jewish people have this strength, this inner strength, this tremendous feeling that we're going to continue and we're going to go on and we will survive, at the same time that we don't lose the sensitivity that we feel towards others. And I thought those points were really just so beautiful among the many, many things that Bruria and her husband have been doing over the last several weeks since the beginning of this terrible massacre. If you enjoy watching this podcast, please make sure that you are subscribed to Chabad.org /extraordinary. And please drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. We are now streaming on all podcast platforms, so you can find us there or on Chabad.org /extraordinary. Thank you again for watching.